So what exactly happened with this plane crash? Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the crazy plane crash in Japan that resulted in 5 people being deceased, although this was kind of a miracle. And before I continue, I just want to say rest in peace to those who died and prayers out to their families. However, this tragedy could have been a lot worse. Let me explain what happened, and we're going to go ahead and just put the plane crash on the screen. Now, what happened here was a Japanese Coast Guard plane was taxiing on the runway while a Japanese passenger jet was landing. It's at night. Maybe they couldn't see each other. Maybe they couldn't communicate. Whatever the case may be, the plane that was on the ground was in the way of the landing plane, and as a result, they collided, and the plane crashed and burned, unfortunately. Now, the plane that was on the runway suffered the casualties. Out of 6 passengers, including the pilot, 5 deceased, except for the pilot. Now, on the jet with the passengers, with 300 and I think 80 something people on board, including the passengers and the crew, they all survived and they just received minor injuries. Again, the small plane with 6 people on board, 5 perished, but in the big jet, the passenger jet with almost 400 people on board, nobody lost their life. So as I said from the beginning, it's a tragedy, but at the same time, it's a miracle, because something like that almost never happens, especially when the plane with everybody on board, the nearly 400 souls, especially when that goes up in the big ball of flames. Now, let's get into a little bit more here. We have the news story. Then we're going to show you some aftermath. If you want to see any of these things, I will link to them in the description. If you're on IG, visit a link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
It was a daily short hop domestic flight that ended in a dramatic rescue and the deaths of 5 people who were on a mission to deliver aid after the recent earthquake.
I almost forgot about that part. So there was a big earthquake recently in Japan. I think it was 7.4 magnitude, something like that. Really big earthquake and a tsunami. Now, the earthquake and the tsunami wasn't as bad as the one that happened a few years ago where the nuclear power plant was destroyed. It wasn't that bad, but it was bad enough to the point where there was aid needed, to where there were casualties, to where there was a tragedy that unfolded. So this was a Coast Guard plane going to render aid to those needed it. And I don't know why it was just on the runway like that with no communication, why the jet couldn't see it, but that's what happened. So although the earthquake did not cause this, it kind of did, because if not for the earthquake, then maybe that plane went in the bin right there.
On board the Japan Airlines Airbus 350, a twin-engine, twin-aisle aircraft, were 379 passengers and crew. It had set off from Shin-Chitose Airport in the city of Sapporo at 4:22 p.m. local time on a flight that would take 1 hour and 25 minutes. Here's the route Flight 516 was taking, according to flight radar. You can see other aircraft on the same path into Tokyo's Haneda Airport. By 5:45 p.m, the plane had turned, ready for its final approach over Tokyo Bay.
I got to pause right here because I know they might give me a copyright. Hopefully they don't. Shout out to Sky News.
The airliner touches down on runway C at 5:47. It's at this point it's in collision with the Japan Coast Guard plane.
So, again, the plane, the Coast Guard plane, was just sitting on the runway for some reason. And as the plane lands, they collide. Again, I have no idea how that happened. I presume it's got to be it's communication. You have air traffic control. You have some way of knowing where all planes are at all times, or at least you should. But in this case, that might not have been the case. I've seen other instances of near collisions, close calls, but this one is probably one of the few that I've actually seen where there was a collision that resulted in the explosion. And luckily, again, unfortunately for those in the Coast Guard plane, they suffered heavy casualties with 5 of the 6 deceased, but nobody on the passenger plane with nearly 400 on board, none of them were actually killed.
The Bombardier Dash 8, one like this, had 6 crew on board and was preparing to take off to the
That's a small plane right there that was on the tarmac, on the runway.
Port city of Niigata. Only the pilot would survive. The plane was not equipped with a modern ADS-B transponder used to transmit information about an aircraft's position.
Okay. So without a transponder, you don't really know where the plane is necessarily. And then again, it's at night, so you can't necessarily see. And I'm sure there's lights on the aircraft, but it's a small aircraft on a runway at night. It's busy. Planes are coming. Unfortunate.
It looks as though they were asked to stop short of the runway at a holding point, and that did not happen for some reason. The chances are that it may have happened very quickly, the whole incident, and the controller didn't spot that the aircraft was on the runway. This could be because it was at night, so it's harder to see visually.
Video.
You're asked to stop short of the runway, so it's probably at a point where you can kind of intersect the runway to go from point A to point B. So you're coming across. You're told to stop at a certain point, but you go beyond it, and now you're in the way. You're in the actual landing path of this jumbo jet. Now we got a problem.
Posted on X shows those on board using 3 emergency exits with inflatable chutes, 2 at the front and 1 at the back. This image of passengers running to safety was posted at 6:29 p.m, within 45 minutes of the plane touching down.
So they used 3 exits that were deemed as safe, and everyone was able to get out one by one. They left pretty much everything behind except for their cell phones, because you can put it in your pocket. It's no big deal. You're not trying to reach up in your overhead storage and get bags, things of that nature. Mostly everything was left behind. Some may have taken bags with them if they had them on them already. They had their phones, but beyond that, they were able to get out orderly and safely. Now, what I read is that there was a general lack of panic on the aircraft, and that is what caused this evacuation to go smoothly with no deaths. Okay, again, you have nearly 400 on board. I think they said 379 total, including passengers and crew on board. Nobody lost their life on the jet. Unfortunately for the plane, the small plane, the Coast Guard plane, you had 5 gone there, but not here. 3 exits. One by one, everybody was safe.
Despite the tannoy system not working, all 379 passengers and crew got out alive. Statistics suggest the biggest risk is when a plane is landing. There were 720 airliner accidents between 2017 and 2022. This is a breakdown of them, from taxiing before takeoff through the whole course of a flight. More than a third of those happened as the aircraft was coming into land, 250 incidents.
Yeah, I mean, they say the most difficult part of flying the plane is takeoff and landing. And you can kind of see the ground, 149 and 68 for the takeoff. So when you're on the ground before you actually get up in the air, when you're trying to build speed, and then when you get takeoff, that's going to be a lot. And approaching and landing, if you're just in the air and you're gliding, you're good to go. But takeoff and landing is the hard part, because autopilot can't really help you like that. But when you're in the air, you turn on autopilot and pretty much go to sleep, and you'll be good to go.
Investigators are already trying to work out exactly how this could have happened.
All right, now there's more here. Now, this is the aftermath. You see, this is an article from New York Times. It says, as flames surge, order prevailed inside a Japan Airlines jet. In addition to a well-trained crew and an advanced plane, the safe evacuation of this many passengers, really about 379, including the crew and passengers, came down to relative balance, absence of panic. And you see, this is the plane right here that was calmly evacuated. This is not the small plane. This is the jumbo jet. Okay, you can see how badly it's mangled. I mean, this right here is terrible. Like I said, it burst into flames. Imagine escaping something like that and nobody loses their life. It's a miracle. It's a tragedy that anybody passed away, but it's a miracle that nobody on the big passenger plane lost their life. All right. Now, one thing they said was that there was relative calm, meaning on the plane, people were sitting in their seats until they were told, okay, it's your turn to get off. Nobody would just, like in the United States, as I close, I'm going to come back so you can see me clearly. In the USA, right when we land, people are getting up. They could be sitting in 40F and they're getting up, trying to step over you. It's like, what are you doing? Why stand up right now? Like, you're not going to go anywhere for a minute. You've been in the air for about 3.5, 4 hours. Another 5 minutes ain't going to hurt you. Just sit down. But they did that on the plane in Japan while it was on fire after a crash. You know what kind of panic that could induce? Because after a crash, you pretty much understand what's happening. You're going to hear the sound. You're going to feel it inside the aircraft. They probably tried some evasive maneuvers before. And if you're trying to maneuver in this big aircraft, you're going to feel that. There's a lot of people on board. It's a lot of weight being distributed. That's a lot going on. You're going to be scared, but people were relatively calm. Of course, people are going to be scared, maybe a little bit panicked, but not to the point where you can't have an orderly evacuation that resulted in nobody losing their life on the jumbo jet. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your take on what happened here in Japan? You got a different kind of culture over there. People can just relax and they're not panicking. They're being polite. They're sitting in their seats. And it's not just a matter of, okay, well, we're going to go down with the plane. No, we have procedures. The procedure work. Let's follow the procedures, do things right. And you have the highest chance of being able to escape this burning vessel and get back home to your family. That is what happened here, in my humble opinion. But whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. Shout out to Japan. It's unfortunate that anybody lost their life, but I think this could be a lesson to all of us all throughout the world of what to do in a situation like this. Okay, you land, you crash and burn, you're alive, you can evacuate. Let's do this right. Let's not panic. Let's not try to fight and tussle. And no. Let's not do all that. It's not going to help you. Okay, panicking, acting the fool is not going to help you. Be calm, be cool. Let's do this right and get back home to our families. Very simple. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.